I finished that program with Young Person of the Year for the state of Michigan. I ended up making like a really cool mohawk across an actual vehicle out of flowers and like local produce that they'd given us. And and I still get people that ask me to compete in their competitions or to work for them, because during that time I was also I was part of a freelance team, and it was the top American freelancers. We would travel and do like multi-million-dollar weddings.
Welcome back to Kickin with Caitlin.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Kickin' It with Caitlin. Today, I am here with Garrett.
Hi.
So, as y'all know, my podcast is not to get to know people. It is a discussion-based podcast. But guess what? I make the rules, and I think Garrett is cool as fuck. Like, literally, I have been inspired by Garrett. I've been pushed by Garrett. They are just like the cream of the crop. I'm telling y'all, like, I love you so much.
Thank you. I love excellence. I want other people's excellence.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay. Well, we are going to be talking about your lore today.
Okay.
I know that all of my audience is going to be just as intrigued as I am.
Awesome. Hi, everybody.
So I was just thinking, like, if anyone's going to be lore dropping on our podcast, it's not even going to be myself. It's going to be you, because I am just so intrigued. But I do want to start off with, who are you?
My name is Garrett. I podcast at Creatively Musing. My podcast is focused on creatives and the creative process. Mm-hmm. We muse about being creative. I also am a full-time artist under Creatively Musing. So if you go to the website, you get to see pieces that I've done in the past or that I've got going on right now. But yeah, I attend school full-time. I'm in the radio, television, and film with Caitlin. I do botanical upcycled art pieces that mesh nature with kind of second life plastics and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I've traveled the world doing international floristry, won a bunch of awards, just subtle things.
I just got a grip onto my chair because it's like subtle. Oh my gosh. People spend their whole life trying to do that. And you're already like...
Did it, retired from it, and here we are. So yeah.
Okay, so now you can understand why I'm so excited to learn. But I was kind of talking to you earlier about this. Like, we sit there and we vibe, and I don't ask you like these really, I don't think they're deep questions, but I don't know very much of your origin. So we're going to go
where I come from. Yeah.
With the origin story today. Please enlighten me.
So I actually come from a tiny little trashy trailer park in Michigan. I grew up around family that drove cars. So about 7 years old, I started junior drag racing. They're like small scale drag racing cars. You do full fuel, everything.
Wow.
I was on a team for that and competed nationally for drag racing from 7 till I was 18. So I was a very car family, not a creative family. It wasn't that my family wasn't creative. They just didn't know how to be creative. Uh-huh. They rebuild cars and stuff. But I started, in a family of like, I did lots of sports, did car things. I did very boy stuff because that was the vibe. Like a Baptist family, very like not anything you're seeing on screen now. But I had, in high school, I was a special ed student. So you can only take classes up to a certain degree. And like I could only go to Algebra 1, or I could only do like a base English class. And then they don't offer you classes anymore, really. It's like, this is what special ed kids can learn, and then that is it. And so you would go to a tutorial class where you just sit there and like hang out, do homework and stuff. And so I went to a vocational school, which is like where you learn welding, you can learn culinary, you can learn job skills. So when you're done, you have a certificate in whatever it is. So you'd be certified in welding. There was kids that literally carved ice and stuff. Like that was their thing. Whoa. It was wild. But I joined a vet tech program. And with that, you have to do living sciences. So I learned vet tech. I taxidermied a swan once because our teacher literally hit a swan with her van and brought it to school in a trash bag. And we taxidermied it and put it on display in our classroom. But I was terrible at it. All of it, I was so bad at it, but except for floral design. And I had a teacher that was like, this is your escape. This is how you are going to find yourself in the world And I just naturally had an affinity for it. It was, I could make bridal bouquets. When I was like 18, I was doing people's full weddings out of this little flower shop, doing people's prom flowers, all kinds of stuff, funeral flowers, everything. And it just was natural. It wasn't a trained skill at that point. So I came back I took a year off after my senior year and went back to this school to finish like their 2-year program. And I finished that program with Young Person of the Year for the state of Michigan, certified florist. Like I had won all these awards. I was an undefeated student designer. And it was purely because of this teacher. And the year that I had won the Young Person of the Year, and I had won like 3 different categories in this design competition, my teacher, I hadn't spoken to her in a little bit. It was like a year or 2 afterwards, after I'd finished her class, and she had gotten aggressive cancer. And so I went to this conference not knowing that she was going to be giving me the awards. And she was like everything of 90 pounds or less. And like had a headscarf, everything. And she had her husband wheel her in there. They drove like 2 or 3 hours to be there at this conference. And this was like the woman behind my career. She got on stage and she gave me Young Person of the Year, gave me all these awards and everything. And then she died like a week later. It was the very last thing she did in the industry. And it was very much one of those like, she sees it, I can see it. And so I started very young competing in floral design competitions. And for a lot of people, they think, oh, you're taking a vase and you're putting flowers in it. This is more like sculpture work, or you're given a task with a bridal bouquet where something has to be woven in it, or you're given like higher technical skill of art-based pieces made out of flowers. Wow. So they're your paint or they're your gouache or whatever, your clay or whatever is flowers. And so I started my international career very young, just competing. And then a few years later, I got invited to what's called Floral Fundamentals. And it's invite only, and they invite the top designers in the world. And I had to have been like 22 at the time, 23. And there was a French designer across from me that was like 18 or 19. His name was Max. Really amazing designer, really, really sweet. And we were just 2 young designers in this room of like titans. They were people that had been around for years, had been writing books and just making what advanced forestry was. And the 2 of us were selected to be their colleagues. We were in the same magazines with them. We were producing work with them. And we were flown to the Netherlands for a week. And at the time I was blogging. I was a blogger because blogs were a thing at the time.
Yeah.
And they took me on a tour of all the lily farms throughout the Netherlands for a whole week. And then the next week, all I did was design with the best flowers in the world. And so from that, I got invited to a competition in Italy. It was a team competition, but no Americans were able to go with me. So I did a team competition by myself. I took second place in one of the categories. Did not do well overall because it's all time-based. Yeah. So 2 people working the same as one person across a 6-hour ain't gonna fly. But I ended up making like a really cool mohawk across an actual vehicle out of flowers and like local produce that they'd given us, and like did some cool stuff. But from that competition, the person that I had gotten second place to, the person that had won, invited me to their competition in Denmark. So then the following year, I brought my best friend and we competed in Italy. Then we went to Denmark with each other. I just traveled all over Europe, North America. If I went to Canada, I would always place in the top 3. It didn't matter what it was. So my origin story, I went from absolute trash. And I don't think my parents will listen to this, but they know where we came from. We came from like middle of winter in Michigan, having a hole in the floor. Like it was 5 people in a 2-bedroom trailer. Yeah. To a lot of success. I just retired from the floral industry about 4 or 5 months ago. And I still get people that ask me to compete in their competitions or to work for them, because during that time, I was also I was part of a freelance team, and it was the top American freelancers. We would travel and do like multi-million-dollar weddings. We'll get into those in a little bit, because some of those were crazy. But yeah, I fell into flowers. That was my art form. And I found that I'm very good at being creative and just personable and just talking to people. But yeah, I traveled over Europe to Canada. I got invited to the Singapore Flower and Garden Show, which is sponsored by their government. to submit into it and just wasn't able to do it, unfortunately, because I think COVID hit right at that time.
Okay.
And so that was one opportunity I wish I would have done. But now I do, upcycled art and go to school mostly for fun. So
that is no, literally, I'm like out of like.
There's a bunch of stuff that happens in there and like things happen, but that get into deeper details. But yeah, like.
It's so casual.
It kind of was. It was a whirlwind adventure of actually whirlwind, like traveling the world. But I had that original teacher that prepared me for success. It was like, if you're willing to work for it, this is your golden ticket. Like, go be Charlie. The world is your chocolate factory.
Aww.
Just experiment, explore, and never stop asking why. And I never did. I spent 17, 18 years very successfully doing floristry.
This is actually insane. Like literally there's going to be people sitting at home just like watching.
You'd be like, what are you talking about?
No, they're going to be like, oh, like, am I witnessing greatness? Yes, that is the answer. That is so insane. Like what you're telling me is like something I could never even fathom doing. So I'm like, holy shit, like the whole time. I
got to do things in my career that probably about 95% of the American floral industry as a whole will never get to do in their whole career.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy and I was very lucky to do it. I was very privileged to do it. But like passed on the baton because my time was done and I get to watch others thrive now. Aww. And I'm very into that. I love watching others' greatness. So
I'm just like, I don't think that I know very many more like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, I'm like, I'm not saying the same thing over and over again on purpose. It's not a like, okay, that's cool. It's not a let's wrap it up kind of thing. I'm just like, it's amazement after more amazement. I'm like, holy shit, like we're still going. Oh my gosh, you've lived so much life. You've lived enough life for like 20 to 30 people, which is crazy. And you're still going.
Like so I'm about to turn 36 and I've gotten to do stuff where like just one little tiny drop in the bucket would be the one major life event of some people.
Yeah. No fucking kidding.
Just keep doing it. I don't know.
And I feel like anytime that you tell me that you're doing something, I'm like, what?
I'm missing class because I have to go stand in the woods and do a public exhibition. And oh yeah, there's always some wildness.
And you just come back like so casually like, hey bitches, I'm back. And I'm like, from what this time?
I won this competition. I did this or that. Yeah.
I'm in so many magazines. Yeah, I'm on Times Square, but like, don't worry about that. I'm like, what?
Like the most Time magazine thing I've ever done was I was an alternate because I had too much skill set, which was wild. But for an HBO Max show, I was the alternate for their show just in case anybody got hurt. I was better at what they did, so I could walk in and just do it and just go right into the competition without having to have a struggle. But the reason I wasn't a main character was because I couldn't struggle enough. There wasn't enough of a challenge to it.
There wouldn't have been any character growth.
Oh yeah.
You'd already been past that point.
Oh yeah. All of the challenges they had were things that I'd already done and been featured doing or had done in the industry as an educator. So it wasn't like I was coming in, oh no, I don't know how to make a miniature arrangement on a nail bottle. Did it, done it, made a Barbie dress once. Like
anyone else step up to the plate.
Right, like thank you, but like that was probably my closest like Times Square moment was being on HBO Max show.
Obviously, you live this immaculate creative lifestyle, and I do want to kind of explore more of it. Yeah. Just because I know that we're just barely scraping the surface, but I do want to know a little bit more about your florals and the lifestyle that you built through that.
So with the florals, it like I had said before, it all came from a teacher. It took me a long time to find professional friends that I trusted like at the same level. And so I was very much, I had a flower shop that supported me in Michigan. and would let me do anything. The owner would put me in professional classes. We took Dutch master class together.
Whoa.
And this shop is tiny. This shop is probably the size of a single bedroom. Like, that's the whole entire flower shop. Like, in a tiny little town that nobody's driving through. And this man made sure that I was learning. And so the first class I ever took internationally was in Scotland. And it was with Alison Bradley, who ran Fusion Flowers magazine at the time. And it was the top floral magazine. And it sold to the level of a Vogue quality because of the quality of photography and design in it. So it was considered a high luxury design magazine. And so she ran this class. They only allowed like 15 people from around the world in it. Yeah. Literally, I was like 19, sitting in this room with like maybe 2 other people that knew how to speak English. The teacher spoke, I think, German that year, because I went to this class multiple times. I got accepted into it multiple times. But that's how I started more international stuff. And then I ended up going back to the class with my next boss when we moved to St. Louis. That boss went with me, and she was like, I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what you're up to. And she wasn't really into competitions, but she really was fascinated by like editorial work with flowers and what could art be with flowers. And from there, just kept going. For Team USA, I competed for about 4 or 5 years. And there's not like, I think a lot of people think, oh, the Olympics. Team USA goes across a lot of different things.
Yeah.
There's the Olympic Team USA, which is a branded thing. But when you're the only American team, North or South American, you're usually the American team. And I started by myself solo. And then my best friend, Matt, who absolutely hated me when I first met him. My teammate was my best friend. And I met him freelancing at his flower shop in St. Louis. And his boss was like, this kid's amazing. You're never going to be anywhere near their level. They're better than you. And so when I walked in, Matt thought I was terrible.
Yeah.
Wanted to hate me because I was built up to be this terrible creature. And we had turned on like Kim Petras, bop into coconuts or something. And we were like, oh, we're friends. Oh, we know. And it just took some Dua Lipa and like a good vibe. And we found that our skill sets, because he is trained in art, he actually went to school and got a degree in art, were very well versed, but he had never been challenged to create art with flowers before until I had met him.
Ooh.
And so he became my, when we went to one competition, he was my assistant and my teammate. And then we decided to go to competitions where teammates were on an equal level. And from there, we started freelancing and making more friends. So then we took another American team with us, took a Canadian team with us. And again, you have to share the wealth of your greatness.
Yeah.
Like all those opportunities are available to anybody that is willing to work for them. Matt saved up. He knew when I'm at the competition, they're paying for my housing, they're paying for my food and my travel. When I got to get there, budget.
Yeah.
I want to go see Copenhagen for however many days, budget. And he spent like a year and a half saving up just to be able to start doing these competitions. And so, yeah, it was, again, just one teacher into, I want greatness for you. I want greatness for you. Come along this journey with me. Let me hold your hand. And now we're on equal footing. Let's run together. And now those friends, my friend Matt, Molly, and Bethany, they were competing with me near the end. They freelance together and do these weddings. And near the end of my career, I was working with them on this freelance team, and their floral budgets are $50,000 or more. It's not the wedding is $50,000. The flowers themselves are. And so like there was one wedding that blew my mind because we were on their property, one of their homes, and we were setting up the wedding on their private airfield. That was also a polo field. And they had 6 different pre-wedding parties. So we did all the flowers for those. I think their budget came out to like $2.4 million in just flowers. There was a chandelier that slowly, it had to have been, I think it was 20 feet by 20 feet above the whole center of where the first part of the reception was, and slowly turned, and it was like all these dripping flowers. The mom, she did a champagne like saber with professional ballerinas around her, and she was the only one to wear white the whole night. The bride let her mom wear like, I think 3 different outfits that were white. The bride herself wore red and white. She wore a white dress down the aisle, which was a 60-foot runway, raised runway. And she had 2 different floral backgrounds. They released the horses within like 5 or 6 seconds of them doing their vows. So they would run in the behind them. And so the horses were released. So all their photos of them kissing is with this wild horse effect in the background. And they paid for like 7 of us to fly out. They paid for our housing. We got super high with each other one night because they gave us like 3 days where they paid us to be there, but do nothing because they wanted us to be relaxed.
Whoa.
So we all got super duper high and went hiking in the mountains and found some guy that's making a castle in the Colorado mountains, handmade, all stone, learned how to do
Minecraft vibes.
kind of.
IRL.
Yeah. But he learned how to glass work. He learned how to do metal work. He's making an actual castle. And so like experiences like that, I just kind of happened.
You actually can't make this up.
No,
I mean, there's so
no.
many layers to
Yeah.
this.
The last time I went to Denmark, second to last time, I was with my friend Matt, my friend Molly, that are still doing these crazy weddings to this day. And we also took my friend Joe and his teammate, and we were in this fjord. I don't know why. And it was like a private beach attached to where they had housed us, which was kind of a camping ground. But their campground is like cute little cabins, like very gnomes in the wood.
Oh, okay.
But like you got heat, you got air conditioning, you got full appliances. And because the locals are so used to this beach, they don't go to it. So it was just us on this beach watching the sunset. Sunset was about at like 1 a.m. Because they're so north, it just doesn't get dark outside for that time of the year. And so the whole sky was orange. The water looked like it was on fire. And so we just threw our clothes off and all just ran into this water in our underwear and we're just floating around like in orange water.
Getting paid.
And competing and stuff. And so like things like that just happened. We just happened to be there at the right moment, the right time. And a lot of my career was the right moment, the right time.
I love that. And like, because I love you as a person, I'm not even envious. I'm like, yes. If someone's going to live that life.
Like if
I'm
you're
glad
willing
it's
to
you.
like work for it, there are things that just come along that are like, here's your prize. Like you started at 18, just like I've cut off the whole side of my hand before, lost almost all my fingertips at this point and stuff. I did some work to get to that point. I was just lucky that I was just putting myself in front of the right people. Like with our school, our teachers put us in the right places with the right people.
Yeah, this is true.
And so that's kind of how my floral career was I had that one teacher that got me to the next person. The next person did the best that they could with me and hand me off to the next higher level. And it was slowly this gradual steps up and up and up. And I just happened to be able to do it in a very quick amount of time.
I love this. I love all of this. And I know we could talk about all these topics forever just because there's so much to it. But I do want to divulge into Camp Lilac.
So I do 2 different camps. I do Camp Lilac and Camp Indigo Point. Camp Lilac is a trans and non-binary youth camp. And then Camp Indigo Point is LGBTQIA plus kids, but I'm a counselor for gender divergent and trans youth at that camp. So at Camp Lilac, I'm an activity staff member, and that is across the board creativity. So they take a lot of your skill set and then they build upon it. I don't know how I ended up being a creative writing activity staff. Never written before in my life, but I've led creative writing. I've led foraging. We went hunting for mushrooms. And number 1 rule is if you see a lot of color, we're not putting it in our mouth. No touching it, nothing. But there's something about being at a point in my life that I have the time. And that's my community. That's where I want to be. I want these kids to see my husband and I have been together for almost 20 years. And so I want them to see healthy relationships. I want them to see someone that's succeeded through hard work, no matter what their gender binary is. No matter where they are and who they are and figuring out who they are, you can still reach for greatness. You can still discover if you hate drawing, but you love painting, or you don't like doing any of that and you want to go trek in the woods and find skulls and stuff, because they also did that once. And then at Camp Indigo Point this year, it's a vibe. You're probably the first person I've ever told it to. They're looking at introducing podcasting as an activity.
Wow.
So I'm going to be teaching a bunch of queer little kids how to storytell and how to interview. And then we're going to actually produce across the 2 weeks of camp our own podcast. So the kids are going to choose their title. They're going to choose if they want to interview somebody or if they just want to do a story time.
Yeah.
And they're each going to have their slot. And you can do what you want with your slot. And then I will do most of the editing unless the kids are interested. And I will just sit there with my laptop out, showing them Premiere Pro, whatever we audition, whatever I'm using. But at that camp, I'm a double. So Camp Lilac, I just do activities. I stay in a cabin full of activity staff. Their cabins have no walls. They roll up. So at that camp, you're in what's called a cabent. And then when I go to Camp Indigo Point, I'm in like an air-conditioned trailer, like a cabin with air conditioning and everything. But their activities are a little bit different. And I do activity staff and I'm a counselor. So I'm a counselor with 2 other counselors in our cabin. Our kids are usually gender divergent or trans, or they have heat like issues. And they're usually the funniest kids. The heat issue kids, hilarious. But they go do cabin stuff while myself and one other person go do our activities. Then we come back for part of the day and we do stuff together. And then we split up again. They go do whatever they do. Then we come back. But like at that camp, you have a cabin night where we plan a night that they'll pay for anything. And we did like Bob Ross night. Where they got all of our kids' canvases and paint. If you've ever followed Bob Ross, it's very difficult.
Really? I've never done that.
None of us had done it. And we learned with children. And they were mad. They were like, why are we doing this? So half of them just made paintings. The other half giggled and screamed their way.
Yeah.
And were threatened to pee on his grave and stuff. Like they were mad. But it's just,
I love children in that sense.
they're just, and like, I usually have older kids. So my kids are usually like 15 to 17. I do way better. That camp goes until 8 years old. I don't know what an 8-year-old's like. Don't know how to put them to sleep or nothing.
Yeah.
A moderate teenager is at a certain level of respect that they're more fascinated by you and they want to be like you than, so when you say it's time to go to bed, because we're not going to thrive tomorrow if we're not looking stunning, they're going to go to bed.
Yeah.
Because they want to be on your level of like opulence.
Ooh. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And like I bring extra makeup brushes and alcohol spray so they can use my eyeshadows. I have glitter gels so they can put that on and their sweat doesn't take it off.
Yeah.
I give the kids as much of the experience as I can. Last year we had an unhoused kid that was on scholarship. We have 2 different dances. And so he came with like what he could. And one is called the Dapper Dinner. And of course I had a headscarf, the sunglasses. I have walking canes and my cane matched this like blushy pink orange dress I had on. And so me and all the fashiony girls are doing the fashion. And I did not know that this kid had nothing to wear to dances. And so he like a lot of kids just wore whatever to the Dapper Dinner. And it was like whatever. But then we have queer prom and the kids, they go hard because a lot of these kids don't go to their own school dances because they're just not comfortable. Like my husband and I, we were our first gay couple in our school. This was in 2007 to go to a dance together and stay together. Where I think one of the first 2 couples to ever get married from our town and stay married. And so a lot of these kids have never seen in their like older kids in their schools dancing and doing normal kid activities. So like we go hard. I had like full, like, you've probably seen it at school, but it's a cover for swimming, but it's all like embroidered flowers and like beautiful flowers. My friend Matt had like full tinsel rainbows. So the kids go really, really hard. They have dresses and stuff. And so we made sure to go out and get this one camper his first dress shirt. He learned how to tie. And it was his first opportunity to ever feel special and to be able to feel like he fit in to that kind of situation. And so like, I do a lot of stuff like that at camp. I want kids to walk away from camp and knowing it's going to be probably a hard year ahead, especially for trans kids.
Yeah.
However, I've got one adult that is always in my corner. I luckily work with 2 other counselors that are just as amazing. One is Gnome, and they do like clown work, and they drove from like Maine just for fun. And then Ashton was the mom. Ashton was mommy. If you got issues, go to Ashton first, and then you'll come to us second. And so I work with 2 other counselors. Like the other staff, they vibe, but our kids are usually the best kids, and that's not even me toting. Our kids honestly just want to put their best presence forward to make sure everybody knows that we're better than everybody else. But like we make little bracelets together when other cabins don't. We have dance parties where we turn all the lights out and somebody brings a disco ball. Like, camp is fun to be creative, but it's also a great place, especially if you're older. Like I said, I'm 36. That's not the normal age for a camp counselor at all. But at these camps, you're going to see that more because we're finally at the age where we can go and be a camp counselor, or we have the knowledge to do it and like the emotional knowledge to do it. Because an 18-year-old trying to put other 18-year-olds to bed is weird to me. Like if you're
that is weird.
If you're a very young counselor, unless you're working with younger kids, it's almost like the age gap is too short. Like if you've got 15-year-old kids and you're 18 or 19, that's weird to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wouldn't look up to you.
But my kids, they vibe, and it's fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're watering your own garden.
I'm trying.
Trying is an understatement. You're doing.
I think it's like just important, especially with just how you're involved with your communities right now. I'm in a financial space where I can donate, but I also had the time. I think that when you can give your time to your community, no matter who they are or what they are, it's more valuable than every dollar that you can give them. So
I love this. I do. And I feel like you give such a different perspective on life too. I love it. No, okay, so come back and we're going to talk about just camp. Yeah. Because I know you have stories for days, especially at camp. All kinds of days.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. I love talking about community, especially. It's just stuff that other people don't think about. Yeah. Like straight cisgender people don't think about. And I'm like, literally, like the best people are who we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And genuinely, like I gravitate towards them as well because they're so much more colorful, more inviting, more fun, nicer. There's so much more to life than just being bland.
Cannot be bland. I don't know if I know how to be bland. When I'm at home in my pajamas is the blandest I am.
And that's far from bland.
Probably, yeah, for most people, yeah.
Okay, so I do want to end on talking about creatively musing. You touched on it just a little bit, but please let us know.
I started creatively musing in the podcasting program that Caitlin and I are both in. And it is all about creatives and their stories. I love collecting people's stories and their experiences that they've been through. And that's like the whole thing about podcasting is the storytelling and the getting to know people. And so we literally do that. We creatively muse about their processes, about their art, what they're up to, pets, whatever they want to talk about that is about their creative journey, we talk about. We've had a whole season of just women. We've done like a whole season of just creatives. The next season I'm still working on. I'm slow. I recreationally podcast is what I tell people. I don't really monetize. I just do it for fun.
Yeah.
And so
I love that you put it that way.
Recreationally podcast. I'm still working on it, but it's going to be a breakdown, hopefully, of my career. We're going to talk to original bosses and have story times with those bosses.
Oh my gosh. I love everything you put out, but I'm really excited about this too.
It's just going to be a story time and like kind of a catch up with people I haven't talked to in a long time or my closest friends and like being out of the industry for a year while they still are succeeding.
Yeah.
How's it shift? How's it changed? But then going back to us jumping in a fjord in our underwear, like those kinds of stories and stuff. So yeah, creatively musing. I also do my art there. You'll see some of my more award-winning pieces from when I did floral design to pieces now that are getting to the gallery exhibitions and stuff. And so I'm really kind of leaning into art, but my podcast is still there. So creatively musing is all my creativity and everybody else's. So
I love that. No, genuinely, like I've listened to every single thing that you put out. all of it is such high quality, and I enjoy every conversation. Like
People are fascinating.
They are. And I feel like the way that you have shaped your podcast too, it's like, well, I'm compelled to listen because I know it's you. And I know you're not asking any stupid questions.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually things that people want to know.
I just ask what I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing people are going to find somebody's fascinating or not very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But like, people are neat. Even if they look kind of bland, under the surface, once you kind of get them talking, they're just neat and they just don't know it themselves.
Oh,
So that's how I feel.
that's so sweet.
But like, it's for real though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love when people are like, tell me something interesting about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, oh, and there's not really anything interesting about me. And they're like, all of a sudden they're like, I've got 13 spider pets. And you're like, why?
That is interesting.
It's fascinating. But like, tell me more. Why do you want that? Like, I know somebody that had, I think it was 5 tarantulas. She lived by herself, 5 tarantulas. She had Skittles, her gecko, that like the whole ceiling was built so it could crawl through any room. And then she had a whole collection of cockroaches to feed her spiders and stuff. And she just lived in this like 1-bedroom apartment, bland. She had a monotone way of speaking, monotone way of dressing. But then you see behind the curtain, fascinating. And I think a lot of people are like that.
I love this. I know I keep saying this, but like, you are honestly like a breath of fresh air. No, it is true.
Yeah.
Like, you make me be like, yeah, I like to live life.
Yeah. Like, why not? Why not?
Okay, guys. So now that you've learned it's just a little bit about Garrett. There are many layers. We're just still at the top. People are obviously going to want to know where to find you at because they are going to follow you after this. Because why would you not? So do tell.
You can follow me at Creatively Musing on Instagram. I've started playing with Blue Sky and Flashes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of getting off because I don't monetize.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting off the main kinds of social media. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram under creatively.musing or creativelymusing.com. I'm not sure.
I'll plug it.
Creatively Musing is where you'll find me because there's nobody else doing it. So if you can Google that, you'll find my website, you'll find Instagram, you'll find anything it's connected to.
And in the description, I'll link them, obviously.
I'm bad at marketing myself so much. Like, so bad at it.
I am too. We're trying here.
We are.
Y'all know where to find me at kickinitw.caitlin, and you should leave a comment asking Garrett a question about themselves. I'm like volunteering you to answer.
Do it. No, I love interacting. Do it.
I mean, please leave a comment because like I have questions for days and I can ask you, but I want to know what you're curious about Garrett. So yeah, other than that, subscribe because you're going to come back and see us anyways. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, thank you, Garrett, for being on.
Thanks
I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate
and
you.
We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.